that I've been I'm sorry, everyone. You are not the only ones to be disappointed in me. But now, I, Furina, will use this trial to show the world. This time, I applaud and rejoice. One of the most outrageous and fantastic, mark my words, this shall be one of the most exhilarating and brilliant shows ever to grace the stage of fun.
Woohoo!
Oh, now we're making...
Why does it feel like Furina just took over the whole thing? Also, even though she's still acting super dramatic, she is taking this—
All right, then. Who will be my opponent in this trial?
The court asks the prosecutor to please take the stand.
Is that so? Very well. Then please speak, witness of Tivat. Also, please allow me to ask, as a final question before the trial begins. Just how much work did you do to force me onto this stage?
Well, we did do a lot of prep after the meeting that day.
I can go over the tasks assigned to the Spina di Rosula, since they were rather straightforward and easy.
Navia, the president of the Spina di Rosula.
Most of the people who participated in the disturbance this morning were my subordinates. They changed into plain clothes and came to the Opera House as regular audience members, waiting for the perfect opportunity to incite insurrection against you. The people's resentment against their Archon has been building as more and more of the prophecy is fulfilled. A spark was all we needed to turn smoke. Moreover, according to our understanding and analysis of you, when something like that occurred, you would likely flee the scene. So, we arranged for a second group to lie in wait.
So, you mean... the ones who scoured the settlement for me were also from the Spina.
And their goal was to force you to step into the giant magic box so you may personally participate in the greatest magic performance in all—
That's right. That house was a magic box, rather than someone's residence.
As the super ultimate version of the setup that I used when I first performed at the Opera Epiclese, the volume of the box was increased by a whole order of magnitude, and the distance it traversed was the entire gap between Poisson and Areneas. Its cargo, of course, was an Archon instead of a human. My thanks, Furina. Without your help, we could never have pulled off such an extraordinary performance.
You're welcome?
Of course, this performance was only made possible with Father's support. The House of the Hearth spent a massive amount of labor in Mora to pull this off. We had to select a location, construct the giant magic box, dig a tunnel, and open up a path through the water. It was a lot of work for all of us.
So, in other words, the earthquake that we felt within the giant magic box was just a—
That's right. It wasn't a sign of another disaster to come.
Then, I can guess Nervilette and Cloran's parts. You gathered a crowd, prepared a stage, and made sure that the champion duelist would be immediately ready for it. Also that as soon as I appeared on the stage, the trial may commence without a hitch. And—
Yes, that is correct.
Well, Clorand, I must commend you for your courage. Only the most outstanding champion duelist— As for you, Traveler, I suppose your role was to keep me distracted with conversation. You'd make sure that I didn't notice anything amiss before revealing yourself as my prosecutor once we'd arrived onto this— Oh? Is that so? Then I suppose It's fine. It matters not. The stage is already set. So there's no reason to disappoint the audience. Let's see this trial.
Madam Prosecutor, please allow me to pass this along. This is a document that Miss Charlotte applied for and received permission to share with you during the trial. According to her, it should speed up the proceedings.
Huh? Charlotte wanted to give us something? Oh, so she's here too! Hey, oh, let Paimon see. Isn't this the exclusive interview? Wait, then that means this document is a perfect timeline of everything that... So in other words, we can refer to this anthology of evidence every time we want to use something from our journey as evidence for an argument. Let's quickly confirm the information in it. Just think of it as a refresher, alright?
You defeated the Hydro Archon in the very first duels you took part in at the Opera House. That's one... I didn't think that the words of...
The prosecution and the defense are both in position. The trial shall now begin.
Oh, come on, Nervylette. There's no need to just fast forward to the part where the prosecution lays out my offenses. As the defendant and the lead actress of this performance, I still haven't even been in... Of course, it is only natural for humans to struggle to understand the actions of a god.
That's true, but my charge here is unrelated to your conduct as an Archon. Instead, I would like to charge you as a fraud who's never been the Archon in the first place.
Wait, what was that? Lady Furina's a fraud?
Hey, I came here thinking that we were going to try the Hydro Archon for forsaking her duty, but...
Charge accepted. Lady Furina, do you plead guilty to the charge? Lady Furina.
I plead not guilty. How can I be guilty? There is no way that I, Focalor, otherwise known as Furina de Fontaine, a member of the Seven and the Regina of all waters, kindreds, peoples, and laws of Fontaine, could be anything other than your true Archon.
Yeah, even though Lady Furina can be rather eccentric, isn't it going too far to doubt her very identity?
Yeah, I've never questioned her identity either. Sure, Lady Furina can be super irresponsible, but what grounds does that prosecutor have to make such a huge claim?
I have cause to believe that common sense will prevail in this case. Many of the members of the audience have known me as the Hydro Archon ever since they were born. There would be no fooling their memory. See? Even the Oratrice has decided to show me its favor. Are you sure you want to commit to a charge that will never be upheld? If you wish to drop the case, I can promise you as the god of justice that you will not have to face trial for making a false accusation. We will treat everything...
An argument with near impossible odds, huh? We have to not only refute Furina's claims, but also overturn the long-held beliefs of the people.
Well, I tried to give you the chance to surrender. If you must persist, then let me ask. If you believe I'm not, and if I was not the Archon, then how did I manage to live for over 500 years?
First of all, you may be a member of another long-lived race, which would allow you to naturally possess an extended lifespan. And second of all, even...
Who gave you that idea? Was it the knave? You'd sink so low as to use a harbinger's words against me.
A curse. I once thought it possible that the aura of an Archon might naturally resemble a type of curse. But in light of this claim, perhaps what I sensed was not your divinity, but a curse after all.
You sensed it too, huh, Neverlet?
Lady Furina is actually a...
Well, it is true that it's extremely difficult to tell humans and gods apart just by looking at them.
Well, don't start celebrating too early now. Even if I have been carrying a curse like you said, how does that prove that I am merely a Besides, everyone knows that the main difference between a human and a god is the possession of authority. Gods can do what humans cannot. That's why they're worshipped as gods. For centuries, manifestations of my authority have served the nation of Fontaine. One need only to turn their eyes towards the Oratrice Mécanique d'Analyse Cardinal in this very opera house, or consider the indemnitium that is used in every aspect.
You tried to reference the Oratrice, but weren't you as confused as all the rest of us when the...
Didn't I make myself clear at the time? The decisions of the gods are naturally difficult for humans to comprehend. There is...
Lady Furina, I believe a reminder of your current circumstances while the court is in session. The principles of justice and the law must come before all else. While you will prove yourself unable to defend against the prosecution's charges if you continue to withhold vital information against the rules of the...
I never thought you'd use that kind of rhetoric against me.
That was no trick of rhetoric, Lady Furina. I've merely reiterated the rules of the court. Rules that all should respect and follow.
So, you neither knew why Child was declared guilty, nor did you understand the structure and operation. Instead of having been created by you, the manifestations of authority you mentioned have been made by the real
Hydro Archon. Well, it is true that I did not know why the Oratrice gave out a guilty verdict but the Oratrice handed out that verdict unilaterally. And it has been operating independently ever. You can't argue that just because a divine creation is flawed, that the god behind it must also be no god at all.
She's still throwing out all kinds of excuses. Seems like she's confident that we won't be able to produce proof that she has no power over the Oratrice.
My power as an Archon. There are...
If that poses a concern, I'm prepared to extend my protection to the audience.
You don't need to go that far.
Aren't you the Hydro Archon? Or is it that you can't even wield the power?
Indemnitium! Yes! It's all because of Indemnitium! All Archons derive their power from the faith of the people, and I've converted the people's... Thus did I give up all of my divine power to provide everyone with energy for the...
Isn't that?
Yeah, no matter how generous an Archon can be, how could they give up all their power? Can a god with no power even still be...
It seems like nobody's buying Furina's excuse.
Hey, come now, everyone! I'm still the same Furina you knew, right? The one that you loved! Please?
If what the prosecutor said is true, she would...
Did she deceive all of us? And all of our parents and grandparents?
Enough! That's enough! Tell me then, if I'm not the real... If you have no evidence of another Hydro Archon's existence...
Wow. It has been established that all Fontanians can dissolve in water from the primordial...
Since you insist on claiming to be a god and not a human, then there's a method that you can use right here and now to—
Miss Navia, please apply to serve as a temporary attorney for the prosecution before addressing the court. Though you act in partnership with the prosecutor, you...
Super sorry, Monsieur Chief Justice. I swear this really will be the— Now, I've brought some seawater from Poisson. As everyone knows, a massive flood struck the area not long ago, taking many lives, including those of some of my closest— So, Miss Furina, would you dare to touch— If we are to believe that you are indeed the real Hydro Archon, touching this seawater would have no effect on you. But, if you don't dare to touch it, then we would have basically proved the reverse. Oh, and I must remind you that after the disaster at Poisson, nobody wants to see any more people dissolve. I do hope you'll act prudently and choose the simpler path of admitting—
Navia from the Spina di Rasula. The Spina has governed Poisson for many years.
If Lady Furina is indeed just a human, she's probably Fontanian like all the rest of us, which...
Lady Furina, this test has been unilaterally proposed by the prosecution. As it falls outside the realm of standard court proceedings, you put...
Well, of course he had to tell her that. But refusing to participate is basically the same as a
She's just staring at the water without saying a single word.
What's going on? Is she really planning to— That's not what—
Due to the inherent risk of the test, Lady Furina, you may...
Hey!
I'm fine! Look at me! Will you believe me now? I really am your
Miss Siegeween, if you're present...
Siege? Don't be nervous. It'll just take a few seconds.
Please announce the results of your evaluation.
As everyone doubtlessly saw, Miss Furina was displaying symptoms of hyperventilation and she was experiencing the adverse effects of exposure to primordial seawater. The extent to which she was affected is the same as other humans.
Thank you, Miss Siegeween. Lady Furina, you may return to the
Oh, wait. What did she just say? I didn't get dissolved. Shouldn't that be a—
Well, considering your tendency to run from your problems, we did originally prepare a direct sample of the sea. However, after extensive discussion, we exchanged it for a sample that is not concentrated enough to dissolve an actual human. After all, we don't want anyone else to lose their life to the sea.
Yeah, so out of regard for Furina's life, you secured a low-concentration sample and asked the head nurse to serve as an expert witness. It's a great thing that the direct sample wasn't actually used. Furina could have—
I can't believe... You... Listen to me, everyone! Please don't think about it! How can you conclusively... Also, if I was really just a human, why would I dare to just put my... Please, everyone, anyone, just listen to me! I swear, I really am your...
I don't think anything she says at this point will sway anyone. The odds—
With all the things that have been said, Paimon doesn't—
I believe the time for arguments and presentation of evidence has come to an end. If there are no objections, we will move on to the final judgment.
I don't think anything she says at this point will sway anyone who's too stacked against her now.
In my capacity as Chief Justice, I shall now render judgment on Furina's misrepresentation of herself as the Archon of Fontaine. As a human who knowingly deceived her fellow citizens, Furina is... guilty. We shall now turn to the oratrice mécanique d'analyse cardinale to render the final verdict on the charges. According to the judgment of the oratrice mécanique d'analyse cardinale.
Well, what's wrong? What's the oratrice's verdict?
No, the oratrice also displays a guilty verdict.
Isn't that correct then?
However, the exact wording of the verdict is thus: the Hydro Archon, to be punished via the death sentence.
That's actually one of the available sentences? I've always thought that it was
The one and only time the death sentence has been handed out at the court, and it's been
Furina's been sentenced to death by the oratrice? We just wanted to use the trial to show her the serious.
This outcome is indeed quite strange. According to Fontaine's current definitions of justice, as well as, is this sentence really appropriate for the crime?
Yeah! Even Fauché wasn't sentenced to death by the oratrice. You know, the real evil mastermind behind the serial disappearances case.
Indeed. Not only is Furina's sentence overly excessive, the very point of our trial today was also to prove that Furina has never been. But now, the oratrice seems to have deliberately invoked the title of the
Excuse me, if I may interrupt. Is the trial still going?
Fremine! You finally made it.
Mm-hmm. Any mission Father assigns to me will always...
Is that the first prophecy slate? Huh. So the knave privately arranged for Fremine to...
I looked everywhere and finally found it at the bottom of the sea. It took me a long time to get around, but has the trial already concluded? Then... doesn't that mean I've come too late?
Thank you for your hard work, Mr. Fremine. Please allow me to review the record left on the slate. Traveler, I believe that you have already seen the other existing slates, and would like you to come here and confirm their contents.
Huh? So what do you see? What is it?
I believe I've now made sense of the Hydro Archon's crime. It has to do with Fontaine's lost history.
Huh? Isn't the Hydro Archon just guilty of deceiving her people? Oh, wait, no, that's Furina, and we've already... so when you say Hydro Archon...
In truth, everything that you've encountered in Fontaine up until this point can be traced back to the contents of these stone slates. However, I'm uncertain as to how much sense they currently make to you.
Okay, let's try to recall the contents of the... The first stone slate describes what you just said. It seems to show the previous Hydro Archon using her divine power, and then the Oceanids turn into heat. Does that mean that Fontanians are transformed Oceanids? Oh, Paimon wasn't expecting that. But if Oceanids... The second stone slate shows Celestia floating in the sky, and the Hydro Archon and her people worshipping it together. But the heavens still brought judgment down upon them. This must be the point when the Hydro Archon and the Fontanians were branded with their original sin. Does this mean that the third slate shows the Hydro Archon seeking into the sea surrounded by many people? That reminds Paimon. Well, the fourth slate is the prophecy the Fontanians have been talking about. People dissolving into the sea, the Hydro Archon crying. We didn't believe that such a crazy disaster could happen at first, did we? But after that incident, it was just a question of when, and...
We know from the case of the serial disappearances of young women that Fontanians can be dissolved in primordial seawater. And the first stone slate tells us that long ago the Hydro Archon used her power to turn Oceanids into humans. This might be the reason that Fontanians can dissolve.
That doesn't sound...
Perhaps what is about to take place has all happened before. The true sin of the Hydro Archon that Nervilette mentioned, and the original sin cast down on the people of Fontaine by Celestia as recorded on the stone slates. It's not as simple as falling into the sea. When Navia fell into the sea, her consciousness was subjected to judgment. The stone slates show the people gathered around the Hydro Archon in the sea. Could that be alluding to the same thing? The prophecy from the stone slates found its way into society, but not many people believe the fortress of Meropide was nearly
They'll dissolve into the primordial sea, but won't cease to exist. Their essence will flow in the seawater, converge, and take the form of an Oceanid. The Hydro Archon was sentenced to death in court, shocking everyone present. Perhaps this means that her sin was actually Fontaine's original sin. Navia fell into the water inside those ruins, and she nearly dissolved. She was surrounded by the people of Poisson in a court within her consciousness, and was The eruption of the primordial sea at the fortress of Meropide was the surest sign that the prophecy was about to come to pass no matter what. The prophecy's contents can all be verified by recent events. If we combine what we know together, loads of truth... Huh? Oh, Paimon gets it now! But then it feels like we're going to have to share...
Let's hear them.
Incredible! Linny, did you...
We're not real humans.
All Fontanians were originally created by the late previous Hydro Archon, with Oceanids as their basis. The evidence for that can be found in how only Fontanians could dissolve in primordial seawater, and how all the girls Vacher dissolved were also turned into Oceanids. Oh, and according to Navia, when she was about to get dissolved, she also saw everyone gathered around for a trial.
Indeed.
Yeah, and it follows from the content of the first slate that she probably angered Celestia by creating... That could also explain why the Oratrice judged the Hydro Archon to be guilty.
The Hydro Archon's true sin was creating us?
And yet, after many hundreds of years, the Hydro Archon's creations have turned around to try to judge the Archon within the Opera Epiclese. The twists of history are often the most unexpected of all.
Yeah, isn't the image here just like when Navia fell into the sea? So wouldn't it be trying to show the image of the Hydro Archon also falling into the sea once the prophecy has been fulfilled in the fourth slate? In the end, the people will all be dissolved into the waters, And only the Hydro Archon will remain weeping on her throne. Did Paimon get all that right?
You've made some keen deductions. I must say, given how much you still don't know, it is impressive that you've already managed to connect so many pieces of the truth. However, while you were able to decode all the information on the slates, they've also been etched with an additional layer of hidden. When we were at the ruins, I tried to decipher the hidden information recorded in the slates. But since we only had 3 slates at the time, now that the slate collection is complete, I shall make another attempt to decipher the narrative recorded within. I believe I should share this truth not only with you, but with all the people of Fontaine as well. I will try to briefly summarize it for you. Your hypotheses regarding the origin of Fontainians and the sin of the Hydro Archon were both correct. In the Fontaine of old, the previous Hydro Archon sensed the yearning of her Oceanid familiars for life on land. The Oceanids were enamored with the beauty and romanticism of human beings, and wishing to have those experiences for themselves, expressed to the Hydro Archon their desire to become. However, even though water as an element is intricately linked with the power of life, the Hydro Archon, as one of the 7, did not possess not one to give in. She eventually found a way to create permanent humanoid bodies for her familiars by appropriating the power of this planet's primordial sea. She poured primordial seawater into the Oceanids' blood vessels, creating humanoid mimics in the process. But if Fontainians were to ever come into direct contact with water from the primordial sea, the power within their bodies would escape these artificial restraints and return to the sea. As a result, of course, the Hydro Archon never received permission from the heavenly principles to create a new human race. And thus, the Hydro Archon and all of her creations came to shoulder the original sin of appropriating the power of the primordial sea. That is the true history of how the people of Fontaine first came.
So we were all Oceanids before we...
That's way too much information for me. I think I'm just going to pretend that I never heard us. Wait, but if that's the truth, we can't let the Hydro Archon be sentenced to death. After all, her only sin was creating us.
This really might be too much information for your regular Fontaine.
Alas, your hypothesis regarding the 3rd and 4th stone slates was inaccurate. The slates' respective positions are, in fact, correct. A key point of the visual on the 3rd slate is how all the individuals depicted in the water are humans rather than they have not been dissolved, which implies that the water depicted in this slate is not. The nation of Fontaine is the nation of Hydro, as well as the nation of trials and justice. Instead of being the literal element, the water in the scene symbolizes judgment, and you may also recall Navia's experience. When she fell into the sea, her consciousness was surrounded by that of many others who intended to hold a trial to determine her fate. Therefore, the meaning of the 3rd slate is that the people of Fontaine shall try the Hydro Archon at the court of justice. Yes, it refers to our present situation.
I think I'm following now. So, what you're saying is, even though we decided to put on this trial to avoid fulfilling the prophecy, in truth, everything we've done has happened exactly as the prophecy foretold. So now, it seems, we're the...
What should we do?
Huh. No matter what, the prophecy will be fulfilled.
If that's the case, does that mean the scene in the 4th slate will also be fulfilled soon?
Traveler, I would like to point out another small fallacy in your deductions. About the 4th slate, you probably thought that the eruption of primordial seawater beneath the fortress of Meripede served as the surest sign that the... However, I believe that rather than being a sure sign, that eruption could As for the root cause of the catastrophe, I believe you've already...